Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some Meat Eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.
You're listening to the Sportsman's Nation Podcast Network, brought to you by Onyx Hunt and Onyx Maps. Now, I got to have a little heart-to-heart with you here real quick. I used Onyx Maps on my phone every single day during the hunting season, whether I was out west during my elk hunt, South Dakota mule deer hunt, or my rut vacation in Iowa. I was on my phone using Onyx Maps every part of the day, whether I was looking at terrain features on the topographic and satellite maps that they offer on their app, or if I was leaving a waypoint like a watering hole, or where I left my trail cameras or tree stands, or if I was marking a route from a campsite to a glassing position, or from my truck to a tree stand location. I used Onyx Maps every single day, and I feel like it's an app that made my life a little bit easier. I don't know about you, but there's been times in the past where I have been trying to find a tree stand based off of memory and not off of looking at a map. And I have gotten lost in the dark before. I had to wait till sunup and then find it that way. But that problem does not exist anymore because of Onyx, and there's a ton of other features that I think you guys need to check out. Go to onyxmaps.com and check out all the functionality of the app. Download it to your phone, give it a try, and when you do decide to purchase, enter the discount code NATION20, NATION20, and for new users, you're going to receive 20% off. So, onyxmaps.com.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and I'm the host of the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I'll also be your host into the world of hunting the icon of North American wilderness, the bear. We'll talk about tactics, gear, conservation, but we'll also bring you into some of the wildest country on the planet, chasing bear. Happy New Year, Colby.
Happy New Year.
It's 2020, man.
Yeah.
Hey, the first issue of Bear Hunting Magazine for 2020 is out in the hands of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a article called Guard the Gate. It's got a cool cover.
Yep.
I felt when I got the cover, even though we're the ones that did it, I felt like I'd been punked.
Yeah.
You have to see what I mean to see it. There's a great article called Guard the Gate in there that you'll want to check out. Also, our partners at the Western Bear Foundation, their president, Joe Condelis, wrote an article called Death in Texas.
Yep.
So the Western Bear Foundation's represented in there. The article's not really about the Western Bear Foundation, but it's about one of Joe's big adventures up in Alaska.
Yeah.
And so check out Western Bear Foundation at westernbearfoundation.net. Also, check out Northwoods Bear Products. Man, it is going to be no time before we're baiting spring bears.
I know, I'm already smelling the stuff.
You smelling the
I'm smelling the grease.
The butterscotch Gold Rush.
Yeah, the Gold Rush.
We had a bottle of that in the back of our truck the other day.
I smelled it when I got in the truck the other day.
No kidding.
It's pretty stout.
The boys somehow cracked the lid on it. And anyway, that's incredible stuff. I'm surprised the bear didn't come out of its state of torpor to break into my truck.
Yeah.
But check out Northwood's bear products for a full line of commercial scents. And I always say it, but my go-to stuff is the Northwoods Gold Rush for our additive.
Yeah.
If you're baiting bears, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Lastly, DU Hunting Supply, W Hunting Supply. I just got 2 of their alpha. Well, it connects to an alpha collar, but they're mini TT15 collars for my squirrel dogs.
Yep.
And those guys are world-renowned for their customer service. So check out our good friends over at W Hunting Supply.
Yep.
And, hey, let's get to this podcast with Moe Shepherd. Moe is a true Ozark mountain man, one of the best hunters that I know. And we're going to have a good conversation with him.
Yep.
Happy
Mo's
New
the
Year.
man. Happy New Year.
I said he was a veteran podcaster. Look at that. He can't even get that on right.
Well, there's something right when I stick it up there.
There you go. We'll just put it down like that.
There we
All
go.
right. Moe Shepherd, veteran podcaster. Did you know, Moe, that I assign out the podcast that we did? It was last December. Last December, me and you did a podcast on spot and stalk bear hunting in the eastern deciduous forest. We were talking about hunting in the Ozarks and in the Ouachitas. I get asked that question probably more than anything. People will private message me on Instagram or Facebook or
Want to
something.
know about that?
And what they'll say is they'll say, "Hey, do you have any tips for public land bear hunting in this area?" And rather than writing them a novel, I send them the link to that podcast.
Let them listen to the podcast.
And I said, me and Moe Shepherd talked about it for 2 hours.
Close to it, I think.
We really did, and we spilled our guts. We told them everything we knew, which was a fair bit of information. But so, Colby, did you learn anything from that podcast?
I'm
You
sure I
didn't
did.
listen to it, did you?
I haven't. Oh, I listened to all of them. From back. That was.
I know that's not true.
I listened to all of those. I haven't listened to some of the recent ones other than putting them together. But it's from a different perspective now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because before it was like
You've
just
captured
listening.
a lot of this from osmosis.
Yeah.
Just from like hearing like me talk to people on the phone when you're sitting over there, or from videos we watch, or from articles when I'm talking out loud, like mumbling to myself in the office. So Colby's probably like a
He catches a lot of overdrift.
You know,
overdrift. Yeah,
You know, it would sound like I know what I'm doing baiting bears with some of these calls.
Hey, he's pretty good on the phone. People call in and ask a question, you know, or a lot of times people subscribe or renew or something online or over the phone, and they'll talk to Colby and they'll be like, "Man, I this and this and this," and Colby just tells them how it is. Man, he's like, "Man, you need to."
Here's your problem.
Here's your problem. So,
As long as people think you know what you're doing, you've always got it made.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Mo, okay, here's a question for you. First of all, let me say, for those of you that didn't hear the last podcast, Moe Shepherd is one of the best hunters that I know, especially as a local hunter. I introduced my buddy last podcast, Scott Brown. He was on last podcast. And I said that Scott and Andy are some of the best. They're as good a local hunters as there are. And the way I described it was, if you lived in Virginia, or if you lived in Kentucky, if you lived in Colorado, there's people that just know how to hunt. You know, maybe they've not traveled and hunted and whatnot, but they know how to get it done in their region.
In their region,
they're
specific
woodsmen,
area.
and they're accomplished in all types of hunting for their region. And I describe Scott and Andy Brown as being as good as anybody, and I would describe you the exact same way, Mo. I mean, for where you hunt, what you've done is pretty incredible, and so that's why I have a ton of respect for you as a hunter. So here's my question. So we've also on the last couple of podcasts been talking a lot about kind of the direction of modern hunting.
Yeah, I've heard some of that. So.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. What is your level of outdoor media intake? Like, do you watch the hunting channel? Do you buy DVDs? That's something we used to do big. I mean, I did. I've got a rack full of DVDs from the early 2000s through about probably even just 5 years ago. Do you listen to podcasts? And I'm not feeding you, wanting you to say you listen to my podcast, but what's your level of outdoor media intake?
Not a whole lot. I listened to and watched some stuff on elk hunting when I got interested in going elk hunting out west. Right. But as far as the hunting around here, I don't listen to a whole lot, don't watch a whole lot. Most of it is just from experience and talking to other people and how they do or don't do. And
well, that's what I thought you were going to say. You are you're
59.
59. Okay. Okay. In my mind, you're still 50 years old. When I first met you, I think you were 50. A lot of people these days are pretty heavily influenced by outdoor media, you know, and that shapes the way that we view hunting. If you grew up watching big deer being killed in Iowa on television over food plots, and then you know, that influenced the way that you thought. And then, you know, the last 15 years has been a big emphasis on, you know, growing deer and managing properties and different things, and that can infiltrate people. Partly what I'm interested in is people that are less influenced by that. And I would say that you're that.
Yeah, I mean, you're influenced by it at all.
Your family homesteaded out here in the mountains.
Yeah.
In a real rugged part of the Ozarks.
In rough times. Back during the Depression years and all that. So that's when my mom and dad both grew up. So.
Well, but I mean, I'm talking like the Shepherd family from way back.
1820s. So.
Yeah, was, and I still kind of view you as just a kind of a primitive type hunter. Not that you are shooting. You do shoot traditional archery.
Yes, a lot of some of my friends, but even some of my relatives told me that I was born about 100 years too late. Yeah. Well, no. So, what do you think of the direction of modern hunting, Mo? I mean, just in short, we spent the whole 2 hours in the last podcast talking about it. In short, a lot of people, because I think people run such a busy life and style and stuff, they don't take the time that it takes to learn the woods, especially out in vast regions of the woods, like in the mountains, in the Ouachita's or in the Ozark Mountains, and to really do good, in my opinion, whether you're bear hunting or deer hunting or anything in them, you have to spend time studying the terrain, studying the wildlife trails, just places that deer like to travel, where they don't like to travel, where they like to sleep or bed, and places they don't. Those places deer and stuff don't like to go. Yeah. And you can hunt all day and find sign in there and stuff, but if it's a place they don't travel in the daytime, you're wasting your time. Yeah. You'll find lots of sign that deer never travel there in the daytime. A lot of times you have to hunt those areas that go to those areas or in between those areas where you find all that sign, and that's where I've had a lot of my success over the years, killing nice deer and even bears out in the Ozark Mountains, is finding those places. So but I think that's what's going.
That you feel like people don't have the time or aren't making the time to be. I mean, you know, the question being like the direction of modern hunting. Like, people are looking for shortcuts. I mean, like, what are you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying people are, and there's no fault in it. They just, I just enjoy spending time out there. Like I said, I go out a lot of times to walk through the woods, and I may take my 22 and try to squirrel hunt a little bit. But when I'm doing all that, I'm looking at stuff, putting stuff in my memory bank. Yeah. You know, this looks good, this looks bad. This might be a place I want to come check later and see if there's some big deer tracks coming around this trail around through here on the side of this mountain or something other. You know, if I see it in there squirreling, just stuff like that. And that's where, and like I said, people just don't have time to do that or don't take the time because they're so busy scheduled with their kids and especially the younger generation now, you know. There's a lot of good hunters out there that are young hunters. But I'm just saying a lot of the younger generation have so much on their plates, they just don't spend the time out there to learn them. And it's tough hunting in the mountains. That's why you see so many people now hunting on leases and stuff, which is nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But
I think the time, we brought that up in one of the last podcasts, was that time is different than it used to be, even though obviously it's not. Time is time. We're humans. We're bound by time. But like people, with the advent of the technology and the efficiency of life, it's like people just don't have the free time that they used to, and that's something we all struggle with. You struggle with it. I mean, you wish you had more time out in the woods. Yeah. I do too.
There's just so much going on. The world is so hectic anymore. Your work, your jobs,
and see, to me, that is the power and beauty and poeticness, if I could say it, of the outdoor lifestyle, is that we have chosen, we've made a decision that we're going to value time in the outdoors. And I think that really influences our life more than we realize. Like, we grew up in Arkansas. We grew up this way. We really don't know any different. And what I have seen since I've, kind of stepped onto the national hunting scene and been able to do some traveling and stuff, is that the lifestyle that you and I live, which is fairly similar, we live pretty close, is pretty unique. I mean, and I just feel like there's value inside of taking that time, becoming a woodsman, learning the craft. That's a phrase that my Uncle Mike Schultz, actually on the last podcast, used to describe the kind of hunting that we were describing. It's not a sport, it's not an event, it's not a thing we do, but it's a craft if it's done right. And the idea of craft means that it's more than just it's deeper than just going and doing something. That there's knowledge behind it, there's philosophy behind it, there's dedication and discipline and skill and all that stuff. And sometimes you don't always think about those things, but it's important.
It is because it's the like you said, the that type of outdoor lifestyle is it takes, you gotta make yourself do things that you don't normally, where a lot of people don't have time to do and stuff to be successful at it and enjoy it too. So that's the main thing, is enjoying it. So
yeah. Well, hey, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you today about. I want to hear a bear story. Number one, that was one of the main reasons I wanted you to come in. It's been a long time since I've heard the bear story.
Yeah,
I tell that story fairly often, and I need to get tuned up to make sure my details are right. Yep. I told that story yesterday. We went coon hunting yesterday. We're in the heart, Colby, of Coon Palooza 2020.
I've been tracking it on Instagram.
Yeah. The kids have been out of school, and so we've been coon hunting every night. And I took a new guy that I just met coon hunting. He had been coon hunting before, but it had been years. And for some reason, we got to talking about bears and danger in bears, and I told him that there's only two people that I personally know that I would say were straight up attacked by a bear. And this is I'm going to tell the first story, and then you're going to tell the second one, because you were one of those people.
Okay.
And I may be able to draw back in my memory bank and find somebody else, but you were one of them. And I told your whole story last night. Well, let me tell you a story, and I'm not going to use the guy's name. And it's been years since I've heard this. It's been probably 8 years since I heard this story, but it was down in the Ouachitas, okay? And this is a real good hunter down in the Ouachitas that I know fairly well, a little bit older than me. He was hunting on national forest, walked in before daylight with his climbing stand on his back, got in a saddle, climbed up a pine tree pretty high. If I remember, he was like 25 foot up in a pine tree. Got daylight, and he looks, well, okay, so when he was coming into this saddle, he walked up the mountain in a real specific way so that the deer and game coming through that saddle wouldn't cross his path, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't leave a bad scent.
That's right. So it wasn't like he just walked down the main trail coming to this saddle. He walked up kind of a peculiar way. Well, gets daylight, sometime after daylight, and he looks down and he sees a bear. And that bear has his nose to the ground and is trailing him up the mountain step for step where he's come. This is in Arkansas. And, that wasn't that unusual. And he was not interested in the least in shooting a bear. So he just sees the bear and is just watching it. The bear trails right up to the base of his tree, smells up the tree, looks up, locks eyes with him, and absolutely comes up the tree. And he's way up in the tree, and, he's a pretty good, real good woodsman, actually. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he was that afraid at that point. He hollers at the bear, just like, hey, get down, and moves around. And that turns the bear, and the bear goes back to the ground. And as I recall a story being told to me, the bear kind of arched his back like a cat and threw his hair up on the back of his neck. I mean, and kind of looked at the guy out of the side of his eye, kind of how they would show aggression, and went out there a little ways and just shot up the tree again. And this is where the details get hazy for me, how many times this happened. It may have happened 3 times, or it may have just happened twice. I know the first time he ran the bear back down the tree. The second time let's just say it happened twice, but it may have happened 3 times. The second time he comes up, he's bow hunting. He's trying to draw his bow, and he's going to shoot the bear just right in the face.
Yeah.
Just to protect. By this time he's scared the second charge. Well, he's in a climbing stand, and you can't shoot straight down out of a climbing stand with a bow.
Yeah.
So he's trying to figure out. He keeps drawing his bow and then leaning down in, and eventually the bear absolutely comes up the tree, and he shoots it through the throat as it's coming over the top of his climber.
Bam.
Wow.
And the very fact that he was able to shoot his bow shows you the angle, because he couldn't lean down and shoot. Anyway, he shoots the bear just right in the throat as it is coming over the top of his climber. And the bear was never recovered. The bear just hit the ground and
took off.
Never found the bear. The guy was, the guy was truly scared, as I recall, and pretty upset. I mean, just upset like he didn't like bears. That's what I heard after that. I heard after that he was not a fan of bears.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's one of the wildest stories. And these are just people that I know, so I'm certain there's other stories that have happened in Arkansas that were like that. And then your story was the second one that was, I would consider an attack. Now I've been, bluffed by one, just where they kind of
I've been bluffed several times over the years. Just kind of thump their feet on the ground, they woof a little bit, or pop their teeth, pop, 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 snap. I've had them do that several times, but usually you holler at them or talk to them and back up, and they'll turn and take off. Yeah, most of the time.
Well, tell us what happened and about what year it was. I don't recall.
That would have been about this is 2019. It was somewhere around 2005, I guess, or 6 or 7, somewhere in that. I don't remember the exact year, but it was right in the middle, early 2000s. And to make a shorter story out of it, I
want the long story, Mo.
Well, I want to get down to where it's at.
This is my first time to hear it, so I need to.
I left my house, and where I lived at the time had a lot of good deer country right around in the mountains, and I just left my house mid-morning. I didn't even get up early that morning, and picked up one of my recurve bows and put my quiver on, and thought, well, I'm just going to do a little bit of spot stalk hunting with my bow and do a little scouting too. It was early in bow season.
Yeah.
And pretty warm that day. And I took off and got down in a place where it was pretty thick. There's a lot of, at that time of the year, anybody that's in the mountains know there's a lot of pawpaw bushes. Mm-hmm. Grow especially on the north side of the mountains. And
it's usually real thick.
Real thick where
pawpaw
those are
thicket.
At. And I was in one of those areas, and I'd probably been gone from the house an hour or something like that. And I remember walking through there, and I seen some deer droppings and stuff, and And I'd killed a couple of deer on this little flat bench in here before in years past, and I thought, well, I may want to come back down here and bring me a stand and bow hunt a little bit. And about that time, something caught movement. I seen something moving. I thought, oh, there may be a deer right here now. So I just stopped, and about 20, 25 yards from me, a small bear cub comes out of the pawpaw bushes right in front of me. I thought, well, that's cool, but Mom was around here somewhere. So I was looking.
How big were they?
They were the small cubs, like they've been born they were born that winter
year.
Before.
So probably a 25 30
pound cubs.
Yeah.
That's what they were, about like a small dog.
Okay.
And anyway, and so I was looking for Mom, and I see movement behind the other cub. Look, well, there's another cub. Mm-hmm. And they both get out in this little opening about 20 yards from me, and I thought, well, as long as and they were just like they do, playing on the ground, doing stuff.
They didn't see you.
They didn't see me or nothing. They were just there, and I thought, well, I'll just ease out of here. Well, I moved back a step or two, and I thought, well, I need to see where she's at, because she's around here somewhere. She may be behind me, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd run across sows and cubs before, and usually you can just walk away from them even if they see you and just talk lightly to them, and they'll just let you get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, still hadn't seen the mama. Well, about that time, the two little cubs side, they're going to come my direction. So they come
just by chance. They didn't see you.
No, they just turned and started, had their heads down playing, and one right beside the other and coming right towards me. And then they got within 10 or 15 yards of me. I thought, this ain't going to be good. So in a low voice, I said, hey, like that. And I remember one of them just kind of stopped and looked, and then it saw me. When it saw me, I just kind of had my bow in my hand. I just kind of waved my bow in my hand.
This wooden recurve bow?
Yeah, my recurve bow, one of my recurves. I just waved the bow at it like that, and it startled them enough they jumped into the bushes. Right there, 10 yards from me, probably, into those pawpaw bushes. And I still hadn't seen the mama bear, so I don't know where she's at. Well, it made sense. I looked up, and she was coming out the same way the cubs came. And I thought, okay, she's gonna scent trail them, so she's gonna come towards me. Yeah. So I start backing up, and when I go to backing up, she sees movement. So she kind of looks towards me on all fours there and looks my way, and I just stop. And then I don't remember exactly what happened then, but I thought, well, I need to get on out here. So I don't remember if I said something to her or I just started backing up. But when I did, I didn't know it. And one of those cubs wasn't 10 foot from me. It had climbed up a pawpaw bush and was there looking at me.
That'll be darn.
And when I backed up that time, it did that little ball like they do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they just make... Yeah. That was pretty good.
and do that. And when it done that, boy, her head jerked up. And I remember saying stuff like, hey, Mama Bear, I'm not bothering. I'm going to get out of here. I just started backing up. And every time I'd take a step, that little cub would, and finally she could see me. And I thought, well, I got to do something different, because I could see she was getting in that mode. She was standing there 20, 25 yards from me. I still just had my bow in my hand.
You could see her body posture
change. It was more puffed up. Yeah, just kind of drawn up.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I need to do something a little louder. So I hollered at her then. I said, hey, Bear, get out of here. You know, I'm getting out of here. And I started backing up. Well, I don't remember if the cub said something or what, but I know within 2 seconds, she made one loud, just kind of like that. And before I could bat an eye, she was on me. I mean, just like 4 big leaps, and she was right at me. And I don't remember when I done it, but I stuck my bow between me and her, and she went to biting at my bow. And popping her teeth, and I was hollering just as loud as I could holler and backing up the whole time, and she just kept coming forward. I remember a couple of times she snapped at me. And once I think she even kind of swatted her paw toward me, but she didn't hit me or anything. She just, I don't know, she might have been just hitting leaves. Right. I've seen them do that before.
Yeah.
And then she made a lunge at me, and I think she was going to try to knock me down in. And when she did, I guess I was ready. I don't even remember that I'd done it, other than I remember doing it after I'd done it. When she lunged at me, I jerked my leg up, and I kicked her right in the face with my boot. And she jumped back then, and me hollering this whole time, just hollering real loud, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here. And I just kept backing up, and she kept coming towards me, and me hollering at her.
So she kept coming after you made contact
with her?
After
I hit her in the face, she still come at me, and I went to hollering real loud then. And I remember she come up her close again, and I gouged her with the end of my recurve bow right in the face 2 or 3 times, hollering at her. And I guess I finally got far enough away from those cubs that she realized I wasn't going to bother them then, so she just stopped. And I just kept backing up, hollering, backing up and hollering, backing up and hollering. And I think she come towards me a few steps again, and I hollered real loud again, and she stopped. And I just kept backing. I never stopped. I just kept backing up.
Yeah.
And when I got, I guess, far enough away from her, she didn't feel endangered. I was going to bother her cubs. She turned and went into the pawpaw bushes where the cubs was, and I could see them. And she sniffed around them and kind of reared up and swatted that one on that bush, and it come down, and then she started walking off with them. I just kept backing up and got plumb out of sight of them. I probably backed up for 100 yards because I didn't want to turn my back because I didn't know she might come running back or whatever.
Yeah.
When I felt safe then, I was out of breath and really nervous. And I sat down, and that's the first time I realized it. I sat down, and sometime during that whole episode, I'd pulled an arrow out of my quiver. I carry a quiver on my side.
Okay.
And I'd pulled an arrow out of my quiver and had it gripped in my hand. And I guess in case she'd got me down, I was going to use it for a weapon. I guess I didn't even remember doing that, but that was the whole episode of it. It was pretty scary.
Yeah, golly.
I mean, even today,
how big do you think she was?
She was probably a 150, 175 pound mama bear.
Yeah,
about normal female bear for these mountains out here. Yeah, and but about 175 pounds too big.
Oh, heck yeah, yeah.
But
that's a really. You hear the stereotype of people saying that a sow bear with cubs is real dangerous. I have never. Let me think about that. All the sow bears that I've ever messed with, and most of them would have been around baits, have been super lackadaisical with their cubs.
Yeah. Well,
so I say that to say that is a rare experience.
Yeah. Well, I've run across them several times before that out in the mountains and stuff. And in fact, 2 or 3 years before that, I had one do like your story you was telling. I had one to smell my scent trail that had 2 cubs with her. Smelled it right to the tree. I went up, and she reared up on the tree, and I hollered at her, and she kind of woofed at me a little bit and then dropped down, and I was hollering at her pretty loud. I was in a climber stand.
Oh, yeah.
In that kind of that same area, but not really close to where this happened to me.
Yeah.
And that was a couple years before that. And she went off then and went up to her cubs, and they went on around the mountain.
Huh.
But, she done what you said that guy did. I watched her. I was watching them. I thought, that's pretty neat watching these bears.
Yeah.
Little cubs. And they were bigger, though. They were like a year and a half old cubs. They were probably 75, 80 pounds, something like that.
Yearling.
And yearling cubs. And but when she hit my scent trail where I'd walked in, and I don't care what anybody says about rubber boots or anything. I had rubber boots and used scent away, and she picked my scent up just like that with them where I'd wore them rubber boots in and climbed that tree, and she come right to the tree I was in.
I'll be darned.
But she didn't get really aggressive or anything. She just she wanted to, I guess, see where I was at.
Yeah. Well, listen to this story. This would be like the exact opposite of what just happened to you this year when we were baiting bears on the we call it the mule bait back in the back in
everything in on the mules.
We got to go in on the mules. Man, when that bait gets cranking, you better get up in there and bait those bears quick and get out of there quick. That's what I've learned because this has happened several times now. Because you go in and tie the mules up within, as close as you can to the bait so you don't have to carry the bait very far.
Yeah.
And you've got about 20 minutes to get stuff done before bears start coming in there. Yep. Well, this year I had Shepherd, my youngest son, with me. He's 11. And we had Ace, the mule, and Izzy, the mule, up there. And we had to unshuck a lot of bread and do a bunch of stuff. And so it took us a little bit of time. Well, about 20 minutes in, I see the ears on those mules just sticking straight up.
You knew something was coming.
I knew a bear was coming. And I look out, and sure enough, there's a bear that's kind of just like shadowing the bait. You just see little bits and pieces of him moving around. And so we just start working a little bit faster. And anyway, the bear finally stays out there for long enough that it just gets brave enough that it just comes walking in. I mean, just like it was going to run us off the bait. And we've got 2 mules tied to trees right here. Me and Shepherd are there. And that bear, it was kind of angling towards the bait. It wasn't coming directly toward, it wasn't just like walking straight towards me. But, I mean, it was walking on a trajectory that was going to put it probably 5 yards from me. And finally, I just start talking to it. Hey, bear. Hey. And it kind of bows up just like just like you said, your bear did, and I could tell it wasn't gonna mess with me. And I mean, I had to get on it and move towards it and stomp around to get it to run off. Well, it was a sow with 2 little bitty cubs, and the cubs were back in the woods, so she made them stay out there, and she came in. Well, no sooner than we got done and we're leading those mules away, we weren't 40 yards from that bait when those 2 cubs and that sow just came trotting in. And anyway, the point being that she wasn't afraid of us, and she wasn't concerned about those cubs. But your situation was different because there was no human intrusion.
No.
They didn't know there was a human around.
No. And
that's
I may have been the
probably
first
why.
human that she looked like a young bear, too. I may have been the first human that sow bear had ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, up close and personal,
That's what I'm
back in
saying.
her woods.
Yeah. Out in the mountains there.
Yeah, yeah. I've had only one sow while I was hunting. Well, and I'm thinking of hunting here. I mean, in Saskatchewan, I had that one touch the end of my arrow.
Yeah.
And then while hunting in Oklahoma one time here, I had a sow that just wouldn't leave me alone, that kept coming around the tree. Now, she didn't have cubs with her, and she ran up the tree a couple of times and got probably within 2 feet of my platform. But other than that, I've never had an experience like what you had with one.
Hope I never have another one like that.
Yeah.
And I love to bear hunt. So,
have you ever had any other like hairy encounters?
Well, this year one got pretty close to me. I think I told you about it earlier in the muzzleloader season.
Yeah.
On the day I was spot stalk hunting that early muzzleloader.
Yeah. What happened? I can't remember.
Well, you spot and stalk bear hunt to see a bear. Hopefully in a year's hunting.
That's
I saw
right.
3 that one day.
Yeah.
Two looked like 2.5-year-old bears, and this third one was probably I don't know, but it wasn't much bigger. It might even been these bears' mama a year ago before, you know.
Yeah.
But this one was a ways from them. Wasn't none of them big bears, but the last one, when I saw it, it wasn't 25 yards from me. The first I'd seen got pretty close, but they went on about their way. They never smelt me or anything. When this one smelt me, I think that's what it did, because it kind of half came up on its hind feet and do like they do. It was, you know how they suck that area and through their nose trying to smell. And when it did, then finally it dropped down and then just stared right at me and just started towards me. And I done made up my mind I wasn't going to kill the bear, because I told myself when I went that morning, unless I see a bear that's 300 pounds or so, I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
And then I about changed my mind. I thought, bear, you keep coming. This 175-pound bear, I may take you.
Yeah.
But it got within probably 30 feet of me.
Yeah.
And but on its all fours. And when it got that close, I thought, well, I'm gonna holler at it. And if it don't leave here, then I'm gonna take it, because I had my muzzleloader up and ready. And I hollered at it, and it kind of half reared up and woofed at me a couple times and dropped down and kept looking over its shoulder, and then it meandered off back through the woods. But I don't know if it's a male or female. It looked more like a female, because it didn't have just the way, you know, their demeanor is. Their heads are more slender looking. To me, they are anyway, the females.
Yeah.
But that was a close experience, but it didn't ever scare me, because it never did seem aggressive. But I think it was just wanting to make sure that I was there or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Let me tell you something that's happened to me 2 different times while on the ground with bears, not over bait. 2 of the bears that I've killed in National Forest with a recurve in the last 3 or 4 years, both of them did the same thing. The bear that I killed over the water that one year, it's on videos. People can watch it. That bear came into that water, and I was knelt on the ground, 8 yards away. And it didn't have it didn't see me at all until it like kind of popped into the opening that water was in. And it never just made straight eye contact with me, but it saw something in its peripheral vision that it didn't like. And that bear slightly changed directions and jumped into the water over a sapling about as big around as your ring finger. But pushed that sapling over. And it was showing aggression. That's what that was all about.
That's what it was doing.
Bears, when they're showing aggression, a lot of times they'll walk over saplings or shake trees or stomp. And so this bear kind of made a quick movement, and it splashed the water and stepped over that sapling. Never looked at me. And on the comments on that, a couple of people made comments of, I can't remember what it was, but they didn't interpret that. But, I mean, to me, there's no question. The bear was showing aggression to whatever I was, and it didn't know. That's number one. Number two, this year, the bear that I killed on the ground, we're always so concerned about scent, and you've got to be. But the bear that I killed this year smelled me 100%, but not until he was so close it was too late. If he'd have smelled me 100 yards away, I would have never seen
saw
him.
the bear.
So the bear came in, and there was kind of a crosswind, and I see the bear 40 yards behind me. I'm on the ground, and the bear's coming to me, and there's kind of a crosswind, and I know once he gets to this certain point, he's going to cross my wind. Well, I'm up and around and waiting for him and ready, just watching him. I need him to come into my wind. Well, when he hits my wind, he immediately sees me and winds me at the same time, and he tenses up, and he makes a quick. People can't see what I just did. I just kind of stomped the ground like a gorilla stomping the ground. But it was nuanced though. Like if you didn't know it, you would have just thought he just took a quick step.
Yeah.
But he was trying to spook me, and then he kind of eyed me and kind of catwalked just a little bit, and he didn't just take off sprinting, but he changed his direction. And by now he's only 13 yards and kind of quartering away, so it's actually perfect. And I was able to shoot him. But both those bears knew I was there and showed some aggression. The first bear didn't smell me on the pond. Second bear smelled me and saw me and didn't just bust off running. Yeah. But it's a nuanced deal because, like we said, if it had been 100 yards away, I'd have never saw that bear. He'd have just turned and left.
I've seen a lot of bears through the years, whether I've been turkey hunting, deer hunting, just scouting, whatever, and hunting them too. And I've seen numerous bears. I say numerous that I can remember right offhand, 5 or 6 different bears that I've got close to or they've got close to me. And one was during turkey season about 3 years ago. And when it crossed my scent path, it came towards me a ways. And then when I finally let it know I was there, it done just what you said. It just kind of lunged and popped its feet. And it was one of them I was telling you a while ago. It actually took its paw and swatted some leaves. Slung leaves out in front of it like that. And woof, woof, like that. Yeah. And then I hollered at it, and it finally turned and walked off. But
yeah,
it looked like a male that was probably 300 pounds. It was a good-sized bear. But,
Well, interesting critters.
Yes, they are. Critters. They are very interesting, and they're fun to hunt. Whether you hunt them spot and stalk, over bait, however, they're an interesting creature.
You're pretty good at animal vocalizations, aren't you?
Most times.
You got a pretty good.
I was picking up on that.
Colby?
Yeah,
got a pretty good bear wolf. One thing that I have this is totally off topic of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
but all the good Arkansas woodsmen that I know are good owl hooters.
I knew that was where you were
Moe,
headed.
Did you?
Yeah.
Moe's got a good owl hoot. Good owl hoot. Who taught you that?
I taught myself that.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Who? You had to have heard somebody do it with their mouth. I mean, did your dad call with his mouth?
No, my dad didn't turkey hunt.
Yeah.
But I did. My brother-in-law that I first ever turkey hunted with, he's passed away now, but we hunted quite a bit when I was young, when I was just a teenager. That's who I started turkey hunting with. And he hooted with his voice, but it sounded totally different from mine did, but I kind of watched him a little bit, seen how he huffed air and stuff. And
was he a pretty good turkey hunter?
He was a good turkey hunter.
Yeah.
And like I said, he's the first one that ever took me turkey hunting, because my dad didn't turkey hunt. He took me turkey hunting when I was about 15, which would have been back in 75 when there wasn't very many turkeys out in the mountains. But that's what got me interested. And then when I was probably in my early 20s, 21, 22, I tried a little bit, but it sounded like you're choking a donkey or something. It didn't sound very good.
Choking a donkey.
But seriously, and I got to where I'd be driving to work or whatever, because I didn't want to do it out in the woods while I was hunting. Yeah. I would try it while I was driving.
Yeah.
Or by myself somewhere, where nobody could hear me. And one day I'd done something, and boom.
Just all of a sudden.
It came out and sounded like that might be a good owl hoot. Yeah. So I went to doing it then, and then got it vocalized in, and I've been doing it ever since.
Can you describe how you do it? I want to hear you do it. You got the trill. I don't know if it's called that. Do you know what I'm talking about, Colby?
I don't.
So a barred owl. So what turkey hunters and it's become in. I feel like the barred owl is like the animal of the South, or the bird of the South. Like everybody owl hoots. Like Dad and I owl hooted to communicate back when we were hunting. You know, owl hoot if you do this. Owl hoot.
We used to do that when, they've several times I've done it turkey hunting, like of an evening. Me and one of my nephews hunt together. I've got a couple of friends I turkey hunt with. We'll hoot at each other so we know where the other person's at, because we know what each other's hoot sounds like.
Yeah. Well, so a barred owl it's got a series of calls. There's one full call that has like 6 or 8 notes.
8 notes.
8 notes. And then they'll do a half call where it's just like
4 notes.
4 notes. But when they really get serious, they'll do a trill. I don't know if that's the right word, but like
I call it a kind of a
laugh.
Almost a laugh at the end of it or something. And then they have an actual loud laugh. I call it that.
Yes. When two of them get. Have you ever heard them do that, Colby?
I don't know if I've ever done that for you, but I've learned to do that. Have you ever heard me do that?
No, but I've tried it myself. Well, let's hear your owl.
Well, you said describe how.
Well, okay, yeah. Because you're right. There's a you pitch the noise to the roof of your mouth.
Yeah, and it's got to come out of your vocals down like up just in the upper part of your chest. And the way I get it started, I have to get an airlock in my throat.
Okay.
And what I do is I swallow air for about 3 gulps, and then I break loose, and I can get the perfect owl hoot out of it.
Huh. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want me to do one?
Yeah, I do.
Is this too close?
It's probably okay.
Maybe pull it out.
Just pull it. There you go.
So you're not breathing into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll let you be able to hear me swallowing the air to get ready for it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And once I do that, then I can do 2 or 3 hoots like that. But after 2 or 3, then I have to do the air again, or like talking now. I'll have to do it again.
I've never seen anybody do that.
And I'll do it again. I'll make this in a deeper. I mean, I can make different tones. You
probably do it better standing up too, couldn't you?
Probably so.
Yeah.
And but I'll do this one like a deeper, more bigger owl.
Yeah.
But same way.
That's good.
It's the global
That's
premiere.
Good. The global premiere of the Moe Shepherd barred owl.
Do you want to hear the laugh?
Yeah. Oh, this is Moe Shepherd in rare form right here.
I'm excited. I've heard that.
It sounds just like that. The laugh was good.
Sometimes that will make a turkey gobble that the regular hoot won't do.
That's right.
Huh.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to give them a 3 note.
Yeah.
Some of the real good turkey hunters I've hunted with in Arkansas, the first note they'll do will just be just a 3 or 4 note, just ooh, 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 and listen. You don't want to give them more if it's only going to take less.
Well, and also a lot of times you only get one gobble out of a turkey. I know we're talking about turkey now, but you get one gobble out of a turkey a lot of times with the owl hoot.
Hey, pull your mic back up.
A lot of times you only get. Can you hear that now?
There you go.
A lot of times you only get one gobble out of an owl hoot or something other. And what I've learned, my first one usually is like you said. I'll just go.
Yeah.
Because when you go the 8 note, a lot of times that turkey will gobble while you're in your second series, and you can't tell where he came from.
Yep. So you give him the half one. If he doesn't answer, then you hit him harder.
Yeah.
And then if he doesn't answer, then maybe you
do the laugh or whatever.
Laugh or do it louder.
Yeah.
No, this is highly relevant to bear hunting because listen, if you're going to be a bear hunter, you got to be a woodsman.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be a woodsman, you gotta. I mean, the reason Moe's a good hunter is because he's a good turkey hunter. He's a good deer hunter. He's a good bear hunter. He's a good squirrel hunter. I mean, you're out in the woods.
I'm out in the woods.
That's the thing. And that's what it takes. I mean, that's the places that I've been successful bear hunting in national forest. I've been successful because I know that country real good, because I deer hunt, turkey hunt, bear hunt there. You know, you really
makes
do have
a difference.
You really do have to know the woods.
And a lot of people I've took hunting with me, whether it's turkey hunting or I probably take more people turkey hunting because I'm a pretty much loner when it comes to deer hunting, especially if I'm spot and stalk hunting. I don't want nobody else around.
Yeah.
I usually do it by myself, but like in turkey season, I may be walking somebody turkey hunting, and when we'll get to the spot to take a rest, and I'll say, "Hey, did you notice those old rubs there? Or did you notice that? Or did you notice there was an old scrape or a licking branch that was broke down?" 90% of the people that go turkey hunting with me don't even see that stuff.
Yeah.
That's when you learn a lot of stuff. It's when you're hunting something else, you learn a lot about the other wildlife that's out there if you're paying attention to the terrain and everything. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, tell me about the deer that you killed this year. We just kind of give me you killed a deer in national forest in Arkansas. What would you call the style of hunting? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think I know what you're going to say.
Some people call that style of hunting still hunting. My dad, he hunted that way quite a bit. He called it slip hunting.
Okay, that's what I call it.
Anyway, but a lot of people call it still hunting. But it's just where you see an area, an area you're wanting to hunt. You don't want to set in a stand because you don't know exactly where you want to set. But and where I use it a lot is in areas where I think deer aren't moving much. Like this year we had a big mass crop early. Deer don't have to move a lot to get their food and stuff unless they're in a rut chasing does. So that's why I do it sometimes. And my favorite time to do it is when there's a good steady wind where I can hunt into the wind. Or what I really like is a steady wind and a light drizzly rain or something like that that kind of muffles my movements and my noise, my sounds I make. But when you're slip hunting or still hunting, my biggest thing to you, when you think you're moving slow enough, slow down about 10 times from what you think you're moving.
Yeah.
And when I may take 2 steps, I might take 10 steps, I may take 20 steps while I'm moving along. But I'm careful what I try not to step on twigs and stuff. I feel them with my feet. I don't watch my feet because you got to watch ahead of you all the time, above and below you and in front of you. But and when I do stop, I try to stop at a place where I think I can see a little better, and I may stand there for 5 seconds. I may stand there for 30 seconds. I may stand there for 10 minutes once I get there. If I feel, you just get a feel for it.
Right.
And that's how I hunt. And another thing I think a lot of people do, they get to where they can see good, but they go too far. Mm-hmm. Like if you're hunting on a ridge or on a bench and you get to a place where there's a little draw or a little holler makes up and you can see the other side of it, don't get that far. When you get to where you can just barely see where you need to see.
I see.
Mm-hmm. That's when you want to stop and you want to really concentrate and look everything over before you go any farther.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that the success you've had, are you killing deer after you've stopped and they come into your view?
Majority of them is that way.
So it's when you've stopped.
Yes, most of them I've killed. It's when I've stopped
and then
either
you're
been
like, "There's
looking
a deer,"
or standing there. And now, like the deer this year, he was a little different. It was raining, wind was blowing in my face. I was on a little narrow bench on a steep mountainside. I was in an area where I knew does bedded some. It's one of the areas I've hunted for years. I've killed other deer there in the past, and I'd went a little ways and I'd stop. I don't know. I went 4 or 5 different spells of easing along in that drizzly rain, and I just stopped for a little bit, probably a minute, and hadn't noticed anything. And there was a break out in front of me there where I could see off on another little flat. I knew this flat's there from years of experience from being in there. I only made about 2 steps, though, slow steps, and movement caught my eyes, and I just froze right where I was at to stop. I stood there, and I stood there, and I stood there, and I couldn't ever see nothing. I told myself, it was just the rain, leaves falling off the trees or something. I started to step again. I thought, no, I don't think that's what I seen. So I stood there a little bit longer. Again, I started to move again. I thought, no, that was something made movement there. And then about that time it moved again, and the first thing I seen was that 10 or 11-inch tine on the top of that deer's head turning. He'd stood up out of his bed. That's what I'd first seen.
Oh, be darned.
And he was trying to figure out, he'd either seen me or heard me or something, because he was turning his head looking towards me, and that's what I seen then was the movement. And when I saw that tine, I didn't know if he had 2 more to go with it or 4 more or 6 more, but I knew with that long a tine, he was probably a really nice deer.
Yeah.
And I said, if I get a shot at him, I'm going to take it with my muzzleloader.
Yeah.
And finally he turned again and kind of moved his front end a little bit and gave me an open shot at about 65 yards. And I shot, and long story short, when the smoke cleared, I didn't see nothing. I said, well, I guess I missed him, because he was on that flat, right on that break where I was fixing to go look over there. So I got my muzzleloader and I reloaded it and everything. Just kept looking. I didn't see anything. Thought, well, I'm going to ease out there and see if I can find some blood. I went about probably 10 yards, and I seen something move again. I stopped, and it was one of his tines. He was laying on the ground. He was trying to raise his head up a little bit. He had fell right there where I'd shot him.
Oh, wow.
And he was he was a really nice mountain, I call them mountain bucks, out of those Ozark Mountains up here on public land. He was about 17 inches inside, but his horns were great big around, had a lot of mass to them. His G2s were around 10 inches. I never did actually measure them. And then he just went out and had big crab claws, and I think his beams are right at 24 inches. Length of the beams.
That's a big beam.
And he's a dandy deer. So
Yeah.
really proud of that deer.
Heck, I should have had you bring the rack. Have you got the rack?
No, it's at the taxidermist.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were mounting it or
I hadn't
getting
had one mounted since that big one I killed 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, man, you gave some good tips there that I like. You know, hunting when the weather conditions are in your favor for spotting and stalking, for slip hunting. You know, wind movement, or the wind covers up so much movement. You can get away with a ton of stuff if there's about a 7 to 12 mile an hour wind.
It's moving branches and leaves and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then if you can walk quiet when it's super dry, which a lot of times in the fall it is. A lot of times in the fall it's dry, and you know, it's tough to slip around much and quiet.
What I've learned about being quiet in the dry woods is take really small steps. You know what I'm saying?
Short stride.
I mean, like just nearly foot, toe to heel.
Yeah,
okay.
And you can do that and feel your way through and keep your eyes on what you're doing. And, you know, you're going to be looking. You see a log there, you got to step it. We get up to it and then ease over that log 1 foot and then the other.
Yeah.
So you're putting your toe down first and then.
No.
Oh.
I'm saying don't take big steps, though.
Oh, got you.
Just about that far is what I'm talking about. You know, just about the length of your feet, step at a time.
Like you're trying to walk out and measure how far you're going.
And I don't even really pick my feet up much. It may even rustle the leaves a little bit, but it's no loud noise that's going to spook a deer or anything. It's just like a little rustle of the leaves when you're scooting them in the leaves like that slow. So
yeah.
When you take big steps, you can't control. Once you take a big step, and if you step on a twig, if you're stretched out there, what I've learned, you can't keep from breaking it.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you take a short step, you can feel that stuff under your feet, and you don't step on it. If you feel it, then move your feet back, shorten it, then step across it with your other foot.
You know, when you think about noise, really the sharp, loud noises are when you break sticks.
Yes.
Now, leaves obviously make a lot of noise, but how far can you hear, especially if you're firearms hunting, if you're taking the short, soft steps into crunchy leaves, you know, how far can a deer hear that? I don't know. He can hear a stick a lot further. That's my point.
Yes, me too. And I have walked up on a few deer in their beds that I've spotted in their beds in dry conditions, and I think it's because there's no loud noise. It's just a kind of rustle of the leaves that you do with your feet.
Yeah. You know who? It'd be fun to have you and James Lawrence on the same podcast.
Yeah.
James has made a living slip hunting. He really has. I mean, that's his preferred way to hunt, is just slipping. And he does the same thing. I mean, I've never heard him. I've never been able to get him really to distill down the principles. And it's not because he's hiding anything. I think he just does it. Now, he has talked to me about walking in the woods, and he's told me his uncle taught him when he was a little boy how to walk quiet in the woods. But anyway,
my dad showed me that, talked about, and he said, like, when you're going, and same thing, if you're slip hunting, I'm going to put this in there real quick because we was talking about it. If you're slip hunting up the side of a hill or up a ridge, I told you a while ago, I think the biggest mistake people make when they're moving through the woods is stop when you can barely see over that to that next flat or the next point on the ridge or the next bench. Yeah. Don't walk up where you can see good, because I've done that. I've learned from the past. When you do that, a lot of times you don't see them and they're already moving, gone, which you have no shot at. If you barely break over and really scan stuff out, if one's laying there in its bed, and that's when I've seen most of them in their beds, is coming up a ridge or up a hillside over a little bench and see them. I done that to a big bear once. But I wasn't bear hunting. I was deer hunting, and I couldn't take the bear because the quota had already been met in the Ozark Mountains a few years ago. It's been about 10 years ago. And a big bear was just laying there out on the ground. He was probably a 300-pound bear or bigger.
Wow. And
he was about 30 yards from me, and he never knew I was nowhere around. I just eased up, and when I saw him, I just froze and watched him for a little bit. I was rifle hunting, and it was around Thanksgiving, and he was just laying there. He wasn't asleep. He was just laying there, just stretched out. All fours just kind of spraddled out like they lay sometimes. I know you've probably seen pictures of them. They'll do that sometimes at bait sites, lay out like that.
Yeah.
And I just eased back over the hill, went on around the mountain, went on about my hunt. But, he never
that's
got anywhere around.
That's some good slip hunting tips right there. It is. Now you passed a couple of deer too slip hunting this year.
Yes, I did.
You had a good hunt where you could have killed a buck later, but you waited.
Yeah, it was during the rifle season. I think it was like the second week in the season. It was another day where there was a little bit of rain. The woods were damp, and there was a steady wind blowing that day. And I was hunting in an area where it's pretty steep in there, and so I was hunting. It's real steep, and there's not many points in there. It's just kind of hillside with little draws or little hollows. Some people call them little hollow. But when you get on the end of a little hump there, you can see back in a hollow, and I would just ease my way around to where I could barely see in there. And about probably the third or fourth little draw I came to, I just eased, and I thought, man, this is a good spot here. There ought to be something in here. And about the time I looked, and this deer was coming, I'd stopped, and this deer was coming down the hill, had his nose around. He was scenting for does. And he was probably 70 yards from me. And when I first saw him, I thought, that's a pretty nice deer. So I got my gun up in my hands. I had it on my shoulder at the time, and got it off and got it up in my hands and watched him come down there. And he got a little close to me, not much. But then, like I said, he was a nice deer. He had either 8 or 9 points, had pretty nice tines, but he was a young deer. I could just tell his body wasn't built big or anything. And I'd already taken that bigger deer earlier, and thought maybe this deer will live. He may not live 2 hours later than that. I don't know, but I let him go that day, and then I had another deer. He wasn't that big, but I think he was just he may have just had 6 points. But same way, I got up on him, and he was feeding. He was feeding on black gumberries, and I saw him while I was moving. But he was looking the other way. He was facing away from me, but I had the wind in my favor. The wind was from the deer to me, and I saw him. And when he raised his head, then I saw horns, and I got excited. And I thought, no, he's not very big, but it's fun seeing those deer hunting like that. So.
Yeah, it is. Well, hey, you gave some good slip hunting tips there, and that kind of stuff can be applied really anywhere. I mean, you could take those tips to out west and
I've used them bow hunting for elk out in the Rocky Mountains, the same scenarios, sort of.
Yeah.
Especially when they're not bugling.
Yeah. Hey, I forgot to mention this. In 2011, I wrote an article about you in a magazine that we used to publish here in Arkansas. And I told Colby there's only a few times in my adult life that I have invested full energy, artistic energy into drawing something. I as a kid, I drew a lot. I mean, I was an artist,
And you thought you were.
I thought I was. Yeah, exactly. And when you told me that story, I was like, man, we got to have a way to depict that. And so I drew this picture, and I'm pointing at this picture in a 2011 issue of this old magazine.
Yeah.
And it's a picture of Moe backpedaling. And see the pawpaw? I mean, those look like pawpaw trees, Moe.
Yes,
I mean,
they
this is like
You
shagbark hickory.
You done pretty good.
Look, can you tell what kind of tree that is right there?
Yeah, that's a hickory.
Okay, and
That's a white oak.
what about this one?
That's a big red oak.
Maybe. I'm thinking white oak. But the pawpaw, so
Yeah.
people will put this this image of Moe getting attacked by a bear. The little cubs are up in the pawpaw tree.
Yeah.
And I'm trying like crazy to find the original drawing of that, and I haven't been able to locate it yet because it's been years. But I like that drawing. I like it. I like that story, man. That's a cool story. But well, hey, this is the first podcast of 2020. When this comes out, it'll be 2020.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were on the podcast a little earlier than this last year, but it was sometime in December last year that we did it. But nah, man, I always like to have people on here that are authentic, Moe. That's a qualification for me when I have people on, and you fit that bill to the T. And anyway, I always learn something when I talk to you. And so, Colby, do you have any closing thoughts or questions for Moe?
And I feel like I want to go out there and just see what I can get on. I think I go too fast whenever I'm moving around. I think that's the biggest thing. Well, that and the fact that I tend to get out in the opening instead of, I don't know, just need to slow down and just use my eyes. I feel like I use my ears too much.
Yeah, you'll see 10 times more stuff than you hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and especially if they're not
and so many people,
that
I mean, I do this even when I'm stand hunting, but it really applies to you when you're spot and stalk hunting or still hunting or slip hunting, however you want to call it, is look for something out of place.
Mm-hmm.
Don't look for a deer. Don't look for a bear. Look for something that just don't look right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many deer I've killed out in the mountains that way. Just something didn't look right, and I just kept looking at it and kept looking at it. And then look off and look back. And then if it changed, and there is something there because it don't look just like it did.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of things I just need to train in my mind, And
like I said, when you're and there's places when you're slip hunting or whatever that you may not need to move slow. You may be in a spot where you've already looked this whole thing over,
mm-hmm.
and if you're wanting to cover a little more ground, you might go 30, 40 yards on a place you've already examined, and it's not going to affect you because it may be in a low place where nothing's going to see or hear you. But then when you come up over something and get a crest where something can see now that hasn't been in your view, that's when you need to really slow down again. So.
Yeah. I guess my question would be, how do you handle like an open area? Because whenever you were talking, it's almost like in my mind, it's like when you're coming up on like some opening or something where you can see.
Mm-hmm.
Do you cross that opening?
Not really. Like one of my favorite things to do is like if I'm like say I'm on a side of a mountain where there's a big bench.
Yeah.
Where maybe Clay probably knows what I'm talking about. There's benches on the side of the mountain just like where you hunt in the Ouachitas, where I call them. It's where bucks like to chase and look for does and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where the does are feeding or where they're bedded on these big benches. I don't go across that bench.
Mm-hmm.
I go below it, down on the hillside, and I may even get out of sight of that bench for 20 or 30 yards and then ease back up like I was telling you a minute ago, ease up where you can see on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I might stay in that position and go, 10 foot or whatever and look again to get a different perspective of what you're looking at. Then I may drop back over a little bit, move around a little farther, and ease back up again.
Yeah.
Because when you're on a place where you can see good, the deer can see way better than you can.
Yeah.
So if you're moving through those open areas, like you said, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You're moving through those open areas,
you're saying skirt the open areas.
Skirt the open areas, whether it's, and like I said, and another one of my favorite things to do is if I'm in like some of the mountainous areas out there, Well, they'll have benches, but then above them there'll be just a little shelf that may not be 10 foot wide, but it's a place easier to walk. That's one of my favorite places to slip hunt, especially if I'm rifle hunting, is be 100 yards from a big bench or something other and be up on that hillside looking down at it, especially during the day because the thermals are bringing that air up the hill, so it's bringing it off of that big bench up into where you're at in that steep ground. The deer aren't going to smell you, or bears, whatever you're after.
Yeah.
But you're up there kind of in the stuff, and you've got background behind you because you're on a steep hillside. They're out here looking into that hillside.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
So
Yeah. That's good. Good. Is that your only question?
I'm sure more will come up.
Yeah, okay.
I'm thinking more about like how I just need to adjust like my mentality. I mean, because it's almost like there's a process to it, and there's probably more that if I'm like looking inside of those tactics and things, there's probably other things that while I'm doing those things that I'll learn just from like being intentional.
Well, I learn something every time I go out into the woods.
Yeah,
you do. If you're really intent on
paying attention,
you learn something every time you're out there.
Yeah.
Whether it's about the game you're hunting or another type of game that you may be hunting another part of the year, but you can learn stuff just by paying attention.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Mo. Appreciate it.
I enjoyed it.
Happy New Year, man.
Y'all too.
Yep.
Happy New Year.
Keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live.
Hey guys, turkey season is in full swing right now, and if you are planning on getting after it, make sure to pick up some meat eater Phelps turkey calls to stuff into the old turkey vest or into your fanny pack right now. I carry a few different things. I like to use mouth calls, and I like to use pot calls. Mouth calls or diaphragms, I like them because it gives you hand-free calling, meaning when you're working a bird up close, you can have your gun on your knee, finger on the trigger, ready to roll, and still be making turkey sounds. I like pot calls because I just like pot calls. I enjoy calling with a pot call. Whatever direction you go, including a box call, which I don't personally use too much, but they're fun and great, and I started out with them. Yanni, on the other hand, one of my main turkey hunting buddies, he loves box calls. And what's funny is I'll now and then look to him and give him the look that means get out your box call and find us a turkey. So it's not that I don't like him. I just have Yanni use his. Then I don't have to carry it. Go to Phelps Game Calls. Get calls that are made in the USA and get calls that'll get them close. Find yours at phelpsgamecalls.com today.